It comes down to is, for a lot of people that come to me, is how do I know which franchise is right for me? And in general, is franchising the right thing for me, or should I open up an independent business? So with all that said, we're winding back to the basics of, is a franchise business right for you? I think there's really one fundamental concept to keep in mind, and that is, what kind of entrepreneur are you? Are you the kind of person who likes to have a proven model and a proven system and strengthen numbers? Or are you the kind of person that likes to make snap decisions, do your own creative marketing, and run it yourself the way you see fit? If you're definitely part of that latter category that wants to do it your own way, franchising is not for you, because you're going to be continually feeling frustrated by the limitations of what you can and can't do to promote your business. You know, when you decide to become a franchisee, you have to be aware that there's usually an initial franchise fee to actually buy the rights to become a franchisee. It's a license, essentially. And so typical fees can be anywhere from $15,000 to maybe even $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 per unit that you open. And so you need to make sure the fee is fair. And then number two, you need to see how long does that contract for. Is it anywhere from 10 years, 20 years? Once that contract expires, you have to renew it. And then also, do you want to understand, well, what's the renewal fee? Is it a small fee, or is it also basically just signing up another brand new franchise agreement? Obviously, it's much better if it's a small renewal fee versus buying a new franchise again every 10 years. So I'm going to start with just some of the basics that are involved with deciding to become a franchisee of some system. So number one, the first thing on most people's minds is, well, what are the ongoing fees? So for those of you who don't know, franchises tend to have ongoing royalties, usually in the form of some percentage of gross sales. So if you own a franchise restaurant that did $50,000 in sales and your royalties are 6%, well, then you owe $3,000 that month. What's important to notice, if you compare, most franchises have a few different players in each space. So there might be our sandwich franchises, and then you want to compare, well, you know, is one brand charging 7% royalty, the other one charging 5%? And that's an important consideration, but there's definitely a lot more to it, because beyond just the regular royalty, there's what we call an advertising fund. And that's an additional, usually percentage-based fee you pay on top of your royalty, which could be anywhere from 1% to 4%. So let's say it's 3%. You know, that's money also taken out of your gross sales. The benefit of that is that that is supposed to be designated for marketing campaigns, whether they're national TV commercials, local radio advertising campaigns, and that's important to also analyze how much is the fee, and more importantly, where is that fee being used? You know, if you're a franchisee in Southern California, but the TV campaigns are more based on local programs in the state of New York or in the Southeast, you're not going to get a lot of benefit from it. So always ask that question and look around for yourself. Is the franchise you're considering offering and promoting the brand in the area that you're planning on opening up your business? Now, once you've chosen a franchise and you're excited and you think it's a great thing, it's going to make a lot of money for you, you're going to enjoy working in it, it's important, especially if it's a physically based business, well, what about site selection? Is the franchisor just going to pick the greatest location for me and then take care of all that for me? And of course, franchisors, who are the company controlling the whole operation, they are definitely motivated to help you find a location, but the key thing is, it's you who's signing that lease, and it's you whose bacon's responsible to pay that rent. So you always need to double check the rent and make sure it's actually feasible for the business you plan on running there. Another thing to consider is, you know, if you're in a business that has a lot of vendors, are you locked into exclusives by your franchisor that you can only buy from XYZ distributors? You know, a lot of times that's good, because as a overall brand with many units, you have purchasing power, so you get better pricing than you were if you were an individual business. But of course, you want to make sure that pricing is being continually negotiated by the franchisor. One other sneaky thing you want to watch out for is sometimes there's large purchasing rebates, essentially kickbacks, and you want to see, is a franchisor pocketing those for themselves, or are they returning that back to the franchisees? You know, that's a savings if they give you that money back. If not, it's essentially another tax or royalty they're taking out of your pocket by making you pay more for your products and services, or products and goods. Another thing to consider is the ongoing support of a franchisor. When you are considering a franchise, you should be talking to existing franchisees, and from them you should always ask, you know, how are the local district managers? Are they helpful? Are they coming over, looking over your shoulder? Are they kind of pestering you, or are they actually offering you helpful suggestions? That's a very important thing you want to find out, because if the franchisor ends up being in an adversarial relationship with you, you're going to be definitely unhappy with your business and unhappy in your investment. So check. Make sure the franchisor actually is offering you continuing support for the royalties you're paying. Another big thing that I've heard from some franchisees I've worked with some sandwich franchises that shall go unnamed, is that they open up a location, it does really well. 6 months later, the phone rings from the franchisor saying, hey, you're doing really well. We think your area can support another store just a half-mile away. Do you want to open it? You think to yourself, well, no, because if I'm doing $50,000 in sales at this location, I open up a second location, maybe combined I'll do $65,000 in sales, which is an increase of $15,000, but all of a sudden I've doubled my overhead in terms of rent, payroll, insurance, an extra store to watch, and so I've reduced my overall profit. And so if you say no, what some franchisors will do, will say, okay, no worries, you had the first right of refusal. If you say no, we got 5 more franchisees waiting, they're gonna open up a store, and you guys are gonna fight over about the same customers. So you really, really wanna check into that to see what kind of protection you have for your unit, so that you are protected and you are able to actually maintain a valuable business going forward. And that brings up another important point, is if you're a franchisee, is your goal just to have one unit so that you're able to, you know, afford a living and pay for your family's bills, or are you planning on having multiple units? You know, the great thing about franchising is it offers the ability to scale. And so what you want to be aware of is you want to ask about what we call a master franchisee agreement or an area developer agreement. And both of those are where you sign a contract to say you can open up X number of units in a certain predefined territory. So it's your territory, you've got protection, you can decide where the next unit goes so that you're maximizing the sales from your customers versus cannibalizing your own sales. That's definitely an important consideration to keep in mind. Some people like a high growth franchise that's going to grow so fast because they can open up more units quickly, but then those are franchises that don't offer a lot of support because they're busy adding more units instead of really keeping the brand going. So with all that being said, I am done and I'm open for any questions. Patrick?
What would be, say, the most successful franchises that you've worked with or put in place?
Well, that's a tricky question. It comes back to what's the best business. I mean, I've met a lot of Subway franchisees who love Subway, but then I've met a ton who are very upset with Subway because they've had the problem I referred to earlier, which was they had one store, they got the phone call, they didn't want to open the other store, somebody else came in and they cannibalized their sale. But then I've had some people who ended up opening 5, 6, 7, 8 stores and they're very happy. So really, it kind of comes down to the individual. Some people are more meant and suited for running a retail business, and some people are more meant and suited to run more of a B2B type franchise, such as a printing business or something like instant imprints, which is more designed for overall marketing for a business. So it really just depends. But I mean, all these factors vary.
Thank you for much.